review video for you today of the Camp TreeRex ST saddle. The reason I wanted to make this review is because I really like this saddle. It's a saddle that I've been climbing on for almost a year now, but I think there are a lot of really weird quirks about it that I think someone should know about before they buy this saddle. I think it's really fun. I think there's a lot of really good reasons why you would want a saddle like this, but yeah, you don't want to be caught off guard by some of the stranger things here that I'll tell you about, so that you're not frustrated if you first pick up this saddle. So the first thing is, this is not a regular tree saddle. My prior experience with tree saddles was I had a TreeMotion S-Lite, I had the TreeMotion Evo, and I've climbed in Notch Sentinels before, and this is not like those. So if you look at it, this already from the construction, you can tell that this is very different from a regular tree saddle. Basically, this is Camp's rope access GT access harness, and pretty much the only difference, I'm sure there's other small ones, but the only difference is that there's a bridge added via 2 shackles here on the leg loops, and then there's also some waist support that goes back from those shackles. But other than that, this is pretty much just a rope access harness. So it's an access harness with a bridge added to it. Now, the fun things about that are that it has a ventral attachment point for SRT. It's pretty nice when you're ascending to have your life support clipped through here, because it's going to stay nice and tight to your body. You might not need to use a chest harness to ascend if this is keeping it close and tidy enough for you if you're using something like the Akimbo. We have 6 tool carrier slots, 3 on each side. We also have 5 standard gear loops, which I really love for clipping gear. When I started with the TreeMotions, anytime I went wreck climbing in like a rock climbing harness, I was always jealous of how good those gear loops were. And eventually I made some nice gear loops for my TreeMotion, but it's kind of nice to just start out with just some good like rock climbing harness style gear loops, because those TreeMotion gear loops are terrible. They're the worst that I've ever seen. And I don't know. Something that I would add about the tool carrier slots is that this webbing can be a little bit fragile. Just from personal experience, my favorite tool to use was the shembiner for stowing chainsaws with just that open gate. And the shembiner did start to tear up the webbing a little bit where I had it set. So now we just have the on-brand Camp Kilo that I've been using as my saw carrier, and it works really, really well. On the other side, I just have 2 rock climbing screw-8 pear-shaped carabiners that I use for lanyard storage and to hold my cambium saver. I like them better than tool carriers because you can flip them out of the way and I can lock them. I don't have to pay for something super expensive like the Rock Exotica transporter just to hold my cambium saver. But yeah, they fit right in the tool carrier slots and they work pretty good. Yeah, moving on, something else weird is that these leg loops, instead of being supported with like a bungee, like literally every other harness, they're with the same heavy-duty webbing that the life support is built out of, which is a little nice. It does support you better. If you're in a seated position and you adjust them all the way tight, it is a lot more comfortable than just a regular leg harness, I guess. But you also have 2 big gear loops on the leg loops. I don't know what you would clip to that, but they're there for you. I think that's more of a remnant from rope access work. Something else for a harness of this class that's a little weird is, since it is a rope access harness, the waist belt is not a quick detach waist belt. You just have these double back buckles, or whatever, just slide buckles that you have to tighten and adjust every time when you use them, which, to be honest, I don't mind. Having the S-Lite and then also the Evo, I did prefer having the quick detach buckles, the Cobra buckles and such. But what I do like about this is that you get the right fit every time, because if you're wearing different layers, especially in the winter, it is kind of nice to have something that is made to be adjusted with every use, so it adjusts very well every time that you use it, and it's easy to cinch up in the tree. A lot of the TreeMotions are nearly impossible to adjust the waist belt once you have it set to your specific setting. But yeah, and you have a buckle on each side, so if you're bigger than the minimum size of this, you can kind of make sure that you keep the ventral attachment point in the center. The bridges that this comes with the TreeRex SRT, it comes stock with 2 bridges, one of which has the little sewn eye loops for using your lanyard over the top, just like the lower D's on a TreeMotion or a Sequoia. But otherwise these shackles are pretty small, so you can't really fit a carabiner through there. So if you're just using a standard sewn eye bridge, it's kind of tough to use these as lower D's, which doesn't bother me that much. I don't really ever use the lower D's. I pretty much always use my side D's, which on this harness, since it is a rope access harness, can be swept back to stay out of your way, which I really prefer, because when I'm limb walking, I always hated, when I first started climbing, I would put my lanyard on my lower D's and I would just trip over it because it holds the lanyard right over your knee, so you're always stepping through your lanyard or stepping on your lanyard. But when you have it up on your upper D's, it stays more out of your way, and since these can be swept back, it stays even more out of your way. Can be a little frustrating if it's swept back and you're trying to clip it, but it's just not that big of a deal. So I really like being able to push these back out of the way. Although the waist belt is not quick detach, the leg loops are, and that's something that's really important to me. I don't think I would ever buy a harness again after having the S-Lite that does not have quick detach leg loops. I think it makes it so much faster to put the harness on and off when you have those quick attach leg loops. So it's not that big of a deal for me to adjust the waist belt every time. But when you have the leg loops fixed closed, it's just a lot of messing around trying to get your legs into those smaller holes. Where when you have the quick detach, you can just go on either side. There's just halves of the harness. So this goes on pretty quick, and the biggest frustration to me about this harness was they have this harness and then the lighter version, which is the TreeRex Evo, which does not have a D for your ventral attachment point. It is just a soft textile attachment point. But since this does come in a full fall arrest version with the Y style top harness, something that really frustrated me is that if you buy it like I did without that Y top harness, it does not come with the shackle in the back that you need to add that harness later. So I kind of felt like I wasn't going to be able to do what I wanted with this harness and be able to use it as a full fall arrest harness for like bucket and aerial work. The Evo does come with that, so even if you buy the Evo without the Y harness, you can add it later. So the solution for this is that Edelrid makes the Vector X harness, which requires only that ventral attachment point. So if I add the Edelrid Vector X, now I have a full fall arrest harness that I can use for bucket work and other aerial lift work, which is super nice. And now I have 3 attachment points on my harness, which is not only nice for bucket work, but also for situations like aerial rescue. Now there are 3 life support points where someone could clip for a potential rescue. And this also makes a really great SRT chest harness, and it's kind of nice to know that it is also life support. Pretty cool. And the other thing I like about that is that removing it is only taking that one clip off. So if I'm doing double rope climbing in smaller trees and I don't feel with fussing around putting this harness on, I can just leave it off and use the harness the way I usually would, and then when I want to go do some SRT, I can throw this harness on for some bigger climbs. Or if I need to do bucket work, I can just add this top harness pretty quickly, and now I have a full fall arrest system, which is pretty cool. This harness works pretty good for just about everything I've done in tree work. I've done a lot of spiking in this, and the D-rings are quite comfortable, nice wide back padding. So it is a great harness to do some spiking in, and also a really great harness for doing some pruning work. The last thing I will say about this harness, if you're buying this harness, is that the sizing is a little bit weird. I am typically in the medium range, and this harness comes in 2 sizes, small to large and large to double XL. I first purchased the small to large and found it very hard to get into and out of, and it didn't quite fit. It was pretty uncomfortable to sit in, and it felt like it was kind of squishing everything together. That's why I leave the leg support loops all the way loose so that it's a little bit easier to get into and out of. But that does mean that there's all of your weight's on your legs, so it doesn't keep you upright, so you kind of tip backwards. But even with that adjustment, the small to large didn't really fit, so I had to return it, and then thankfully also got the large to double XL on sale, which is ridiculous because I am a size 31, 32 inch waist, and I'm wearing the large to double XL harness, and where in their size chart I fit into a medium. So it's just kind of some weird fitment going on. If you're looking for a reference, I'm 6'2", 170-ish pounds, and 31, 32 inch waist, and I am wearing the large to double XL Camp Tree Access saddle. Maybe it was personal preference, maybe I wasn't used to the way these harnesses are supposed to fit, but this is how I wear it and I like it a lot. I also think it's more comfortable to upsize a harness so that you're getting a harness where you are the minimum size that the harness can be, just because it maximizes all of the padding, whether it be leg loops or also your waist belt. But yeah, those are just some things that I found while buying a harness. But this is a super fun but quirky harness, so I would recommend it, but only to somebody who's looking for some of these weirder capabilities that you can do with this harness. This is not a basic tree climbing harness. It's got some weird stuff going on, but it's all a lot of fun. So if that's something that you're interested in, then I think you would really like this harness, and it's usually pretty economically priced, and you can find some good sales on it. But it's a good, cool harness, but my goodness is it weird, and that's why I wanted to talk about it with you. So I was editing the video last night, and I was going through the video, and I said most of the things that I wanted to say, except I feel like I didn't make it clear why I like this harness so much. I like this harness because it reminds me of a rock climbing harness. It feels very trim and lightweight, and I feel like I can move faster through the canopy with it. I feel a little bit more agile than I do with some of the other bulkier harnesses. I don't know, it feels sportier than like a regular tree climbing saddle. But yeah, and something else I didn't mention is that I do really like, because these shackles are completely removable, I like that I can run any bridge system on here I want. I could replace these shackles with Petzl open rings, Courant Odin, something like that. I ran a dual bridge with a Petzl adjust on here for a while using the Petzl open rings, but for now I've just kind of switched back to the smaller system just because it feels more lightweight, and this harness is pretty light. I think I weighed it with my tool carriers on here, and it was like 5 pounds, 10 ounces. But yeah, it's just, I like that it feels like a fast, speedy harness, and I have all these fun things that I can do with the ventral attachment point, the bridge, and the option for fall arrest. But yeah, I like this harness a lot. Fun fact about this area is that this is actually where I learned how to spike down trees, was in this swamp. So in honor of a good old time, let's take a top. Like that I forgot my helmet, so I'm wearing my dad's crispy hard hat. Oh, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. On another note, I've been trying my best to make the video of how I made the harness that I made from scratch, but I keep ending up scrapping it because it's not quite what I like. So if you've been waiting for that video, I am sorry, but hopefully it will be out soon and I'll figure out something that I like. But yes, the homemade harness video is coming soon.